Bienvenidos a la clase de Español 1. Hoy es la pruebita de capítulo 11, lección 29, y también vamos a introducir lección 30. Welcome to Spanish 1. Today is the lesson 29 quiz from chapter 11, and then once the quiz is over, we're going to go ahead and introduce lesson 30. So we'll take the quiz. Then as we go into lesson 30, we'll talk a little bit about some summer vacation vocabulary. We'll look at Romans 5:8, Romanos 5:8, our next verse in our next lesson. We'll talk a little bit more about Peru. Then we'll talk about the pronunciation of the letters, the consonant sounds he, he, and the letter jota. As well, we'll introduce some more cognates, our FY, and changing those to FICAR cognate. So let's go ahead and get started. We've got that quiz on the schedule for today, so go ahead and get that quiz taken care of. Remember, don't proceed in the lesson at all until you have finished that quiz. Que Dios les bendiga. Do the best you can. Have a good time. All right, I hope that quiz went well for you. I'll get that graded and back to you as soon as you get that turned in to me. Let's go ahead and take a look at Lección 30, lesson 30 here as we move on in chapter 11. We've been talking about Peru. Remember, we've been talking about those three geographical areas that Peru has. La costa, which is the coastal plains, that's right along the Pacific Ocean. Las montañas, those are the Andes Mountains. And la selva, this is the tropical rainforest that takes up a significant part of the country of Peru. Remember that the capital is Lima. And of course, if you haven't yet watched the video in my playlist from YouTube about Peru, I'd encourage you to watch that. I think there are some things in there that you'd find very interesting. Let's do some verse review. Primer de Corintios 15:3b. Say that with me, clase, with the reference before and after. Primera Corintios 15:3b. Cristo murió por nuestros pecados, conforme a las Escrituras. 1 Corintios 15:3b. El segundo versículo es Mateo 4:19. Clase, Mateo 4:19. Y les dijo, venid en pos de mí y os haré pescadores de hombres. Mateo 4:19. And then our new verse for this lesson, which will be the third verse in chapter 11, is Romanos 5:8. You just listen as I say the verse. Romanos 5:8. Mas Dios muestra su amor para con nosotros en que siendo aún pecadores, Cristo murió por nosotros. Cristo murió por nosotros. Christ died for us. Let's take a look at the missing words here and see if you can identify some of the missing words from the verse. Before we move on, take a good look at the verse and see if you can find any of those missing words. Ok, clase, ¿qué palabra nos falta aquí? La respuesta es muestra, shows, muestra. ¿Y aquí qué palabra nos falta? La respuesta es aún, even or still, aún. ¿Y aquí qué palabra nos falta? La respuesta es murió, died, murió. ¿Y aquí qué palabra nos falta? La respuesta es nosotros, we, nosotros. Y la última, the last one, ¿qué palabra nos falta aquí? La respuesta es siendo, being, siendo. Make sure that you're reviewing that verse each night so that you're ready to write that for la pruebita over lección 30. Pronunciación. We've been talking about the sounds that the letter C and the letter G can make in Spanish. This pronunciation section specifically deals with la letra G. Remember that when G is followed by E or I, that G sound becomes soft. Instead of G, it will say like the English H sound. So when we have the sound G-E, it is not going to say G, it is going to say G. When we have the sound G-I, it's not going to say gi, it's going to be he. Just like the letter J in Spanish, jota, makes that almost the H sound that we have in English. Words like these. Say these after me, clase. Gente, giro, jugo, paja. Did you notice here the G-O sound? because the G here is not followed by an E or an I, it said the G sound. So it's jugo. All right. Make sure that you are pronouncing those sounds correctly. Pay attention to that E and the I when it comes after the G. Cognados, it's really very easy to form verbs in Spanish from English verbs that end in the FY letters. Simply replace the Y in the ending with icar. So if we have edify with that phi, that FY at the end, that FY would just become ficar. So edificar. For glorify, it would be glorificar, to glorify. Identify would be identificar, to identify. These are very easy. Justify, justificar. Notify, notificar, and rectify, rectificar. So how would you change fortify to Spanish? How would you change gratify to Spanish? How would you change intensify to Spanish? Make sure you are making good use of that knowledge so that you are changing verbs that end in FY to FICAR verbs in Spanish. Helps you to understand a lot more words in Spanish. Nota cultural. Let's look at the cultural note over Peru. Remember, we said we'd talk a little bit more about Peru. En la edad precolombina, los indios Inca vivieron en Perú. In the pre-Columbian age, the Inca Indians lived in Peru. La civilización Inca fue muy avanzada. The Inca civilization was very advanced. En 1531, Pizarro conquistó Perú en nombre de España. In 1531, Pizarro conquered Peru for Spain, in the name of Spain. Pizarro llevó a España muchas riquezas que encontró en Perú. Pizarro brought to Spain a lot of the riches that he found in Perú. Una de las ruinas más importantes de la civilización inca está situada en Machu Picchu, un pueblo en los Andes cerca de Cusco. Una muralla de 500 metros de largo y 12 metros de alto rodea la ciudad. La muralla está hecha de rocas grandes. Algunas son de más de 100 toneladas. Machu Picchu fue un secreto hasta 1911, cuando lo descubrió el arqueólogo y senador norteamericano Hiram Bingham. Okay, so there are several questions here, numbers 1 through 5, based on what we just read from the cultural note. You can see the notes in the margin, and you can translate some of the story that is there in the cultural note, but I'd like you to be able to answer some of these questions, like número 1, ¿Quién conquistó Perú? Who conquered Peru? Who was it? ¿Cuándo conquistó Perú? When did he conquer Peru? Look over those questions and make sure you can answer those. And then las vacaciones. This is on página 247, 247 in your textbook. This is a conversation between Ana and Mario. And then based on the marginal notes, make sure that you can understand this conversation. As we move through this lesson, we'll talk a little bit more about that, but make sure that you have read the conversation between Ana and Mario in página 247. Okay, look over those questions as well here so that you are getting an understanding of that conversation. We'll do more with that as we go through the lesson, and then as well in our oral skills as we wrap up lesson 30 in a few days. El vocabulario de esta lección. These are some summer vacation vocabulary sentences. ¿Qué hiciste el verano pasado? There is the preterite form of the verb hacer. ¿Qué hiciste el verano pasado? What did you do last summer? So all of these are just some things that may have been done last summer, some basic summer vacation activities. Viajé al río Amazonas con un misionero. Estuvimos en la jungla. We traveled to the Amazon River with a missionary. We were in the jungle. Y aquí, fui de campamento con mi familia. Fuimos a las montañas. I went camping with my family. We went to the mountains. Y aquí, fui a la playa. Hice castillos en la arena. I went to the beach. I made castles in the sand. Y aquí, viajé a las islas del Océano Pacífico. I traveled to the Pacific Ocean Islands, or the islands of the Pacific Ocean. And that's it for today's lesson. I hope you did well on the quiz. And then as we introduced Lección 30, went over some summer vacation vocabulary, introduced Romans 5:8, talked a little bit more about Peru, the pronunciation of he, and jota, and then we talked about those cognates, those English FY words that would become ficar in Español. I hope the lesson went well for you. If you have any questions, let me know. Que Dios les bendiga, clase. Adiós.